Welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling a book that's really made waves, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, it's definitely a popular one.
It is, and you've all shared some interesting excerpts with us, so let's get into it. Why does this book still get people talking? And do those big ideas still work today, with everything changing so fast?
Well, one thing that really grabs you is how Kiyosaki uses his own life, right,
Mm-hmm.
to teach about money. He compares what he learned from his poor dad, who had all this education but struggled, and his rich dad, who was an entrepreneur and, well, rich.
That two dads thing is a really good hook.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest differences in how they thought about money?
The big one is working for money versus having your money work for you. Poor dad was all about, go to school, get a good
A
job.
classic path.
But rich dad really pushed financial smarts and building assets that make you money. That's the core of the book, that difference.
And then there's that phrase, the rat race. It's almost like everyone knows it even if they haven't read the book.
Yeah.
Why do you think that idea of working so hard but not getting ahead financially really hits home for people?
I think it's that fear we all have, that no matter how much we work, we're just stuck paying bills and never really free.
Right, like on a treadmill you can't get off.
Exactly. Kiyosaki's saying that without understanding money, we're just trading time for dollars, not building real wealth.
So how do we get off that treadmill? Kiyosaki talks about assets and liabilities, but it feels like it's more than just knowing the definitions, right?
Oh, definitely. He keeps it simple, right? An asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes it out.
Simple but powerful.
But it's how you use those definitions in your life that matters. Like he says, a house, which most people see as an asset, could actually be a liability because you're always paying for it.
Whoa, that's a big statement. Most people think owning a home is like the foundation of financial security.
He's shaking things up, making you look at everything differently. It's all about cash flow. Don't just think about what something's worth. Look at if it's bringing money in or taking it OUT.
That makes sense. A lot of people talk about net worth, but Kiyosaki's big on understanding financial statements, not just net worth. What can we learn from looking at things that way?
Well, net worth can be tricky. It counts stuff that doesn't actually earn you money, maybe even costs you, like fancy car or clothes. Financial statements show your real income, expenses, what you own, what you owe. That helps you make better decisions.
So it's about going deeper, understanding the real impact of our choices, not just collecting stuff, but building things that make money.
Exactly. And that leads to another big idea, minding your own business.
So when he says that, does he mean everyone needs to be an entrepreneur?
Not exactly. It's more about creating income that doesn't depend on your job, building those assets we were talking about. Like he talks about Ray Kroc, like the McDonald's guy.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Kroc said his business was real estate, not burgers. He got that the real value was in owning the land under those restaurants.
So it's about having something on the side, a side hustle maybe, that makes you money and builds assets, not just working for a paycheck.
That's it. And this is where it gets interesting. Kiyosaki says, buy assets first, then get the luxuries, which is kind of the opposite of what most people do.
It's a different way of thinking. Instead of work, earn, spend, it's build wealth first, then enjoy the extras. Why does that work better?
It changes your whole mindset. When you invest in assets first, your money's working for you, making more money so you can have those nice things later or invest even more.
So you're building security, not just chasing after things that make you happy for a minute.
Right, you're creating wealth instead of always being in debt.
This brings us to something people have a lot of opinions on. Kiyosaki's views on taxes and corporations.
This is where it gets a little controversial. He thinks taxes, though they're supposed to be fair, often hit the middle class harder. And corporations, which people often don't like, actually give the wealthy ways to protect their assets and pay less tax.
This is complicated, and we can't get into all the details today. But why should we understand how these things work, even if we're not experts?
Because it's part of being smart about money. You got to know the rules of the game to play it well.
So it's not about agreeing with him, but about having the knowledge to make our own decisions, whatever our background is.
That's the key. It's about making choices that fit our goals and what we believe in.
Kiyosaki also talks about how success isn't just about working hard. It's about financial intelligence. Like that story of Alexander Graham Bell, he offered to sell his telephone patent for $100,000, but they turned him down.
And that little mistake created a massive industry.
He's saying that there are opportunities everywhere, but most people are either too scared or stuck in their ways to see them.
They can't think outside the box.
So what about you? Are there opportunities hidden right in front of us, especially when things are changing so much? It's something to think about.
That's the big question, isn't it? And Kiyosaki would say it all comes down to, can we really look at things differently, challenge what we think we know? He spends a lot of time in Rich Dad, Poor Dad talking about what holds us back from getting rich, not just the knowledge part.
So it's like we have the tools, but something's stopping us from using them? What are those roadblocks, those things inside us?
He's got five main ones: fear, being cynical, laziness, bad habits, and then arrogance.
5 tough ones to beat, for sure. Let's start with fear. How do we deal with that according to Kiyosaki?
He thinks fear, especially fear of messing up, keeps people from doing anything. His way of dealing with it is to actually see failing as a chance to learn. He even uses the "Remember the Alamo" story.
I wouldn't think a historical loss would be a lesson about money. How does that fit in?
It's about how you think. Those Texans at the Alamo, they didn't just give up after losing. They used it to make them stronger. Remember why they were fighting. Kiyosaki's saying we got to do the same with money problems, not see them as the end, but as ways to get better, learn from our mistakes.
So instead of fear stopping us completely, it's like information telling us to change our approach. What about being cynical? How do we not fall into that trap?
He separates cynicism from actually analyzing things. Cynicism is just being negative, closed off, but analysis is looking at things objectively, being open to different ideas. Be analytical, he says. Ask questions, but don't let doubt shut you down to possibilities.
This makes me think about his point about I don't want that sometimes not wanting to do certain things can actually lead to more success financially. How does that work?
It sounds weird, but it's smart. Like, he talks about people saying, I don't want to fix toilets when it comes to real estate. He's saying, instead of getting stuck on what you hate, find people who are good at those things and let them do it. Hire a property manager to handle repairs. Your "I don't want" can help you build a better business, one that makes more money.
It's focusing on what you're good at
Mm-hmm.
and then building a team that fills in the gaps.
Yep.
That's a cool way to look at those I don't wants. Okay, now laziness. I don't think he's saying to just relax all day, so what's his take on getting over being lazy?
He knows it's a real problem, but he says it's usually because people don't have a strong purpose or passion. Find your burning desire, he says, that thing that makes you want to take action.
That makes sense. It's like having that internal drive, your why. If you've got that, the work doesn't feel so bad.
Exactly. You're working towards something that matters, not just doing a bunch of tasks. Now, what about bad habits? Those seem pretty hard to break for most of us.
I've got a few myself. What's the trick?
Well, Kiyosaki says a lot of bad habits come from wanting everything right now, that instant gratification thing.
Yeah.
He says, focus on rewards that come later. Be patient. Build up that self-discipline to save and invest for the future.
It's like switching from a quick pleasure to something that pays off big later. I bet that also teaches you patience and how to handle tough times.
Yeah.
Now, the last one, arrogance. How does that get in the way of building wealth?
Kiyosaki says arrogance stops us from learning and getting better. He reminds us there's always more to know. A smart person, he says, is happy to hear new ideas and finds mentors who know more than they do.
So being humble is important, especially with money, because things are always changing, new strategies popping up.
Definitely. He thinks arrogance can actually hide what we don't know. We might act like we know everything, but in the end, it's being willing to learn and change that matters.
So we got those 5 obstacles: fear, being cynical, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. But how do we actually UE all this? Does Kiyosaki give any specific things we can DO?
He does. He's got a list of 10 things to do to build up your financial smarts. We can't go over them all, but let's pick out a few that fit our learner type.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
One that jumps out is finding mentors, people who are already where you want to be. Kiyosaki thinks that being around successful people helps you learn faster and can open up new opportunities.
Yeah, learning from someone who's actually done it, achieved what you want, that's super valuable. Their stories and advice can really help.
Another big one is to stop listening to people who are negative or scared. This goes back to that cynicism thing, the sky is falling type. Those voices can stop us from taking risks and going after our goals.
So it's about being around positive people who lift you up, who believe in you and push you to do more than you think you can. What else is on that list?
Kiyosaki really stresses that profits are made when you BUY, not sell. That's crucial for anyone investing.
That's interesting. How does buying make more profit than selling?
It's about finding those hidden gems, things that are valuable but nobody else sees it yet. Smart investors do their research, figure out the market, and snag those assets before they get popular. That's where they make their money, when they buy.
So it's about having the guts to see those hidden gems and jump on them before everyone else does.
Exactly. It takes patience, discipline, and being willing to do what others aren't, which can be tough but really pays off.
Okay, this next one seems to be all about never stop learning. Master a formula, then learn a new one.
Kiyosaki wants us to be lifelong learners, always picking up new skills and knowledge. He uses the example of a baker. Every baker follows a recipe, but a really good baker is always trying out new ingredients, new techniques.
So it's like find a system that works, get good at it, but then always look for even better ways to do things, always improving.
Exactly. That's how you stay ahead in a world that's constantly changing.
This next one might be the hardest. Pay yourself first, even when things are tight.
It takes discipline, but Kiyosaki's convinced it's the foundation of building wealth. He says, put some money into your asset column before you pay bills or buy anything extra.
It's like making your future a priority, even if it means giving up something now.
Right. It reinforces that idea of waiting for bigger rewards and builds the habit of investing in your own well-being.
I really like the idea of building a team of advisors who are smarter than you. That goes against that do-it-yourself thing that's so popular now.
It does. But Kiyosaki thinks building wealth is a team effort. Get experts in areas where you're not so strong, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, and use their knowledge to make better decisions.
So it's admitting what you don't know and finding trustworthy people who can guide you, not trying to do everything alone.
Exactly. It goes back to being smart about money. It's not just what you know, it's who you know and how you use those connections.
Okay, this one sounds almost too good to be true. Look for opportunities to get something for nothing. Leverage deals, find creative financing.
It might sound like that, but Kiyosaki says those chances are out there if you think outside the box and get creative with your money. Like he talks about buying property with a small down payment and then selling it right away for a profit. Basically, you're using other people's money to make yourself richer.
So it's like finding ways to maximize what you earn without risking all your own money, using leverage and being strategic.
You got it. It often means finding unusual ways to finance things, negotiating good deals, and structuring things so everyone wins.
This next one seems perfect for our learner type. Convert earned income into passive and portfolio income.
This is key for building lasting wealth. Kiyosaki believes real financial freedom comes from having income that doesn't depend on you working all the time.
So it's about owning things that make money without you constantly working on them.
That's it. Passive income could come from rental properties, royalties, or businesses that run themselves. Portfolio income comes from things like stocks, bonds, investments that make dividends or interest.
And lastly, he tells us to choose financial heroes to model success after.
He's big on finding role models who inspire you and show you what's possible. Just like athletes study their favorite players, Kiyosaki says we should study successful investors and entrepreneurs, learn their strategies, and think like they do.
So it's about finding people who achieved what you want and using their stories as a guide for your own journey.
Exactly. Remember, success leaves clues. By studying those who've come before us, we can learn from their mistakes, avoid those common pitfalls, and reach financial freedom faster.
We've covered a lot today, from assets and liabilities to minding your own business, the power of financial intelligence, and those 5 things that hold us back. It's been a really cool look into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It really has. And even if you don't agree with everything Kiyosaki says, his book makes us think differently about money and consider new ways to be successful.
You can tell he's passionate about teaching people about money and helping them take control of their future.
Totally. And that passion comes across in his writing and connects with people from all kinds of backgrounds.
Now, as we go into the last part of our deep dive, I want to explore something deeper in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's not just about money, is it? Kiyosaki's got a bigger message about finding your path.
You're right on the money. It's about figuring out your purpose in life, something that runs throughout the whole book.
I'm excited to dig into that and see how it ties in with everything we've talked about so far. So we've talked about all these strategies, but it feels like Kiyosaki's pointing to something bigger. What's this whole finding your path thing about, and how does it connect to learning about money?
Well, Kiyosaki's saying that knowing about money isn't the end in dooma, it's just a way to get to something better. Real wealth, to him, is about being free to do what you love and live a life that matches your values.
So it's not about the pile of cash, it's about what that cash lets you do.
Exactly. He talks about people who have tons of money but hate their jobs, compared to people who might not have much but love what they do. It makes you think about what really matters, beyond just how much you're worth on paper.
Yeah, it makes you look at your own life. What are those things that make you feel truly rich, not just in your bank account?
It's a question we should all ask ourselves, regularly. It's easy to get caught up chasing money and forget if we're actually happy with what we're doing.
Kiyosaki seems to think finding your path isn't like a one-time thing, it's more of a journey.
He compares it to a road that twists and turns, unexpected. There might be bumps, wrong turns, even dead ends, but it's the journey that counts, what you learn along the way.
So it's about being okay with not knowing everything, the challenges, the surprises, not being afraid to change direction and learn from what happens.
That's it. Being open to the unknown is how you find out what you're really capable of and build a life that's both rich financially and personally fulfilling.
We've really dug deep today. Assets, liabilities, minding your own business, financial smarts, those roadblocks we all hit. This has been a really insightful look into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It has. And even if you don't buy into every single thing Kiyosaki says, his book pushes us to think hard about how we see money and consider different ways to be successful.
It's clear he really cares about teaching people about money and helping them take charge of their lives.
Definitely. And that comes through in his writing. It connects with people from all walks of life.
So to wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question Kiyosaki asks over and over in the book. It's a question that sticks with you. What is your path in life? What are you here to do?
It's a question that can guide our money choices, our careers, how we live our lives, really.
And remember, even if you don't agree with all of Kiyosaki's methods, there's a lot to gain from hearing different viewpoints and questioning what we think we know. That's how we grow.
Couldn't agree more. Keep learning, keep exploring, keep diving deep into those ideas that make you curious.
Until next time, happy learning.